What's going on?
Good evening.
How you
Sorry
doing?
for the lateness.
Mm.
I got roped into babysitting a dog and watching a soccer game.
Yeah, you
Playing
can blame Ty for tonight.
Texas Taxi. Here I am. Uber, $15 to the city. No, but let's get into this a little bit later than normal. So for everybody watching or anybody rewatching this, thank you so much for joining us. I can't believe this is like our I think our fifth or sixth
Yeah,
Thursday night. How
yeah,
time flies when you're having fun. Ads.
yeah. It's been good. I've been enjoying these Thursday nights. It's
I'm not
actually
going to lie,
yeah,
man.
it's been
I've
good.
really enjoyed it. It's a good way to
Mm.
sort of get us a little out of our comfort zone and see what the market's been sharing. We've been fortunate. I will share a quick little story for anybody that's having a bit of a rough time, as I
Go on,
did to a
go on.
degree. Obviously, you saw that we had a phenomenal run with alts in the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've been really blessed with some amazing trades over that. Couple of lessons. We're private mentoring a few guys at the moment, and one of the guys that we were talking to had a bit of a bad day today. Lost 30% of his trading account. Didn't bring stops up or didn't have a stop loss in place. It was just one of those things that you miss. He runs a very busy lifestyle and works a phenomenal amount. So sometimes these things get overlooked. And I myself, I was happy to take profit on a lot of my old positions, but there were a couple that I was a little bit deep in, and I did forget to bring my stop losses up. Now I cut my losses at a small loss, but I did lose a lot of profit on just one particular coin, and that was FET. And I'm happy to admit this because it could be a lesson for anybody that's when life gets in the way, you've still got to make time for your trades, even if it is 5 minutes of a morning, just to check your positions and stick to your trade plan. And that's certainly something that I had overlooked. I think sometimes when you and Zoran Cole said this a few weeks ago when I had a really good chat with him, which we'll be releasing in a week or so on the Trade Hacker podcast. He said, statistically, the more that you win, the more likely you are to have a loss.
Mm.
And that was me. So I took a couple of days off trading. I have been very busy this week, but I definitely needed a little bit of a mental reset, as I did have over the Christmas break as well, and jumped on this morning. And we'll go through some of our trade setups that this morning was my first trade in about 3 or 4 days, and it wasn't catching this dip down; it was catching the wick up after the dip down. And PB, if you're watching this, made 300% on a trade this morning. I think in another 147% trade from that. I took just shy of 56% on a trade at 25x. That was a cheeky little trade, probably a little deeper than what I should have gone, but thankfully it paid off. That's certainly one of my lessons. Don't go too deep in certain things, and
Yeah.
every day, no matter what, make at least 5 minutes for checking positions and just making sure that you've set the right stop losses or take profit limits. And that was a lesson learned for me.
But just circling back to the time for charts and the 5 minute thing you said, Ty, it really comes down to the time frame that you're trading. So
100%.
don't if you've only got 5 minutes to look at charts or 10 minutes to look at charts in the morning, don't trade the half an hour or the 30 like the 1 hour
Hell
chart.
no, no.
It's
And
probably not a good
definitely,
idea.
yeah, and that's one thing that I said to our guys the other day. I've been so putting such an emphasis on really just the daily.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't been looking at anything else because my lifestyle just hasn't allowed it. We know, and we're pretty public with the fact that we're swing traders, so we're not scalping or looking at smaller time frames.
yeah.
This morning was the exception, and sometimes you lose a little bit of
Mm.
I think you cut yourself short a little bit if you're not checking multiple time frames,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's sort of what got me a little bit. But when I say checking the charts for 5 minutes, that's not what I'm also just checking positions, and I'll jump on Binance very quick, look at my positions, jump on BitMEX, look at where I've got things set just to confirm that things haven't changed or things haven't been hit or whatever it is that goes on. So lesson learned. But anyway, that's a little bit of story. We talk about our wins a lot, but it's also equally as important to talk about your losses and when you're in a little bit of a negative headspace, as I was. So keen to get back into it tonight, and really eager to look at these charts ads first. Let's have a look at what happened this morning. That was really interesting. I was fortunate to have a few minutes spare this morning, jumped on with the guys, was looking at this chart ads. If you go to my first chart where we spotted this little parallel
Where is it? I'm finding it. There it is.
channel.
There it is.
Yeah, so we've got this major parallel channel that we've had set up for quite a long time now with fibs, and I will just quickly point it out on fibs here as well. We talk about how we do not move our fibs up, or sometimes Adam does. Sometimes we don't. I don't often move my fibs up when we find a solid point. I'll often let it run to the 27 as it did here. Perfect rejection off the 27 fib, perfect bounce off the 0 fib line. And it came to the middle line of our parallel channel that we've drawn up here. And as I was on this morning, I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, that looks like a little bit of a parallel channel here. It's the first time I charted it in 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, this is not looking good right here. We can't break the center channel of our major parallel channel, and we've made a lower high here. It's really important that we print a higher high and bounce over 10.4 here for anything sort of macro bullish. And then neck minute ads, we go to the next chart, and we started getting this run down, and we went, holy shit. We were all sitting here watching it fall from this like 10.2 level all the way down to 9.1, and I got in at, I think it was just around 9.3. I think I hit it and rode it up to like 9.634, and I cut my position. And that was a quick little trade in the space of like 30 seconds. I market bought and I market sold, but I was happy to take the profit on that one. So that was an amazing morning for some of our guys, and probably one of the few times where I've actually caught this type of price action live and haven't been busy or been out and about doing things or whatever it is that I was doing. So that was a fun little trade to make. But ads, more importantly, what are we seeing at the moment, and where do we think that we need to be? I've got my thoughts. I'd like to sort of see if we're in confluence.
So, if you want to just clear the annotation, brother.
I'm trying to actually clear that annotation. It's not working for me.
No? Should. I can clear it.
Clear it for me, ads.
I'll clear it. Clear all drawings. There we go.
All right, perfect.
I've got to get out of this. Oh. All right. So at the moment, look, it's been fairly predictable, to be honest with you, as we've moved up this sort of channel. And what I want to point out is I made a clear point in Discord today that, you know, we're all looking for a move back down, and I do agree. You know, 8.8 and 8.4, 8,000 is probably not bad targets considering the big span of run up that we've had. But what I just don't want to ignore at the moment is the trend line that's running up the bottom part of this channel, where we've started it from here, had a lot of respected candles there. Moved on to another 3, and then seeing another one now. And I don't really want to call a downtrend until we break this movement on the daily, because this is like the last, in my eyes, it's the last form of defense this has before it's going to really come back down to and break this demand. The other thing is we've had this run up from to about 10.4, if I get this out of the way, and then we've made a higher high, and then we've made a lower high, also touching that supply this morning at 10.270, and then come back down and touched our relevant demand. So we're in this sort of channel at the moment and bouncing between these two price levels. So look, at the moment, Ty, I can't really tell you much, but all I can say is we've been respected quite significantly on this demand zone, and if you were to draw it on the XBT chart, it's even more so. So look, honestly, Ty, I can't tell you if it's going to head back down until we sort of make movements under 9,000.
Yeah, and if we just go back to my chart for a sec there, so I can sort of talk. I won't annotate because something's going on with the screens here. But yeah, this definitely is the last point of defense, in my opinion. Not only do we have our 0 fib line there, which has been respected quite a number of times as well, we also have our 10.48, which is our 27 fib line. So I do mimic the sentiment that we could have found a bit of a range here. But second to that, this is a really important level because we've obviously got that major parallel channel that we really need to bounce and close within in the next probably daily candle.
Yeah.
But at this stage, I really want to see it close and hold above probably 9.5 to maybe ideally 9.6. 9.610 would be a nice daily close above that if we can. The
Yeah.
only thing that sort of concerns me, and if we go back to your chart ads and just bang
You
our,
can annotate if you want. I can clear it. Doesn't matter.
or just put your itchy on if you wouldn't mind, just our standard itchy.
Mm-hmm. That's the daily itchy.
Yeah, so that sort of helps to identify a little bit of a range between our Tenkan and our Kijin there. We had this C-clamp divergence between our Tenkan and our Kijin, which, like we said, kind of like gaps, tends to get filled a little bit. So that again is a line of defense. So not only do we have sort of our conversion line, excuse me, our baseline support, we've got our demand as support, and we've got our major trend line as support. So really for me right now, this is a no trade zone until we get some confirmation of where things are headed. On the side of there being a bounce from here, it certainly is very strong, but at the same time, we're seeing volume sort of weakening a little bit as well. Again, as we sort of say, we can't see higher price without higher volume, and when we see declining volume and higher price, that's pretty bearish. But if we look, and one other thing that I'm putting a little bit of weight on that I don't typically use as much as our Bollinger Bands ads, if you want to pop the Bollingers on.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't want to become one of those guys that has a million indicators going on. But at the same time, you've got to look at things from a different perspective. So we can sort of see that this demand zone is a really interesting level here as well. And if we do happen to break down from here, the sort of the last line of defense for me would probably be 9.1, 9.15.
Yeah.
I think is where I would be really concerned if we broke below that. So for me, as I've said to the guys a number of times, I'm happy not jumping into a position right now until we've got confirmation of the overall trend, because we are at a pretty important level here. But at the same time, if you trust your TA and you feel that we're going up or going down, have a punt. But for me, like I've said, I'm looking probably more so for a better long position and a more solid long position than what I am trying to jump into shorts and play this short game at the moment. I'm patient. I'm happy to wait. And that's part of my trade plan. And I don't really care what happens in the meantime until we get confirmation.
If we break it down a little further, we've got these pivot levels, coming all the way up to this supply zone here. So honestly speaking, if you're looking at market structure on its own, you would be able to come all the way back down to this demand and push up, because you haven't created a lower low on the daily yet. You would need to push past this pivot point here to really start a downtrend.
Yep.
Look, does that make sense? Because
Totally.
this is going to be our major pivot right here. So we need to come all the way back down, break this demand zone before I can say, okay, cool, it's made a lower low, look for shorts coming up on a lower high, and then continue, down to our levels underneath. And I do agree with Tyre, 110%. It is a no trade zone until we get that sort of confirmation.
Yeah, and that's where 9.150 comes into play, where it's sort of just at the bottom of that. And funnily enough, it also happens to tie in with our 50 EMA.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where things are playing out for me at the moment. Like I said, got fortunate with a little trade last night and sort of made back what I had lost over the weekend. So it's got me back in the mood for trading. But there was an interesting, I don't know who posted, I think maybe it was Cantor and Clark or maybe Jacob Canfield, and he said, it's just as equally as important to get yourself back in the game when you're in a bad headspace and get yourself sort of set than what it is, bailing at the top. So for me, it was just important to get back on the horse, and whether it be a small trade or a big trade, it's got my head right again. So I'm fortunate and I'm grateful for that. And yeah, it's allowed me just to be a little bit more patient. And the last thing you want to be doing is revenge trading if you miss any of these moves. So take your time, let the trade come to you, and set yourself up.
Perfect. That's and that's the best headspace you can be in right now. So
100%.
Cool. Any other altcoins you wanted to look at tonight, Ty?
Yeah, there is one.
Hmm.
I think it's probably important to have a look at F, to be honest, as well,
Ethereum. Let's have a
while
look
we're
at
here.
Ethereum. Ethereum, BTC or USD? We'll go BTC. Still on that.
Yeah.
Still on that run, man. It's still on that run, and we still haven't seen a pullback. Well, we have to a degree, but nothing significant like BTC. And if I nip this chart up a little bit, because I haven't looked at F since actually since last week. Let's go back to defaults for a sec. You still there, bro?
Yep.
What are you seeing on Eth anyway? Before I have a look at it.
This is actually the first time I've looked at F in a little bit of time. Yeah, I think she's still got a bit of room in it, man. I think we haven't found probably a little bit of a trading range, sort of between 25,000 or so Sats, and probably 27,000. So again, we could sort of ping pong between that for a little bit. Yeah, we're right there on that supply. Looking at some of our indicators, there is a little bit of things are showing that we could be headed back down, because it's hard to tell with this. Like, yes, there's some good volume that's come in. The volume has dropped off quite a fair bit in the last day or so. But the thing that just gets me is these parabolic runs. Like, they need pullbacks.
Yeah, nothing just continues up
when they
aimlessly.
just don't respect. Yeah, when they don't respect what's going on and these relevant pullbacks, it's sometimes hard to play.
Well, this if we zoom in and have a look at this move on its own, and we're looking at the pivots, although it's not much of one, that's our main pivot. That's our main pivot. If we draw our fibs from the pivots, we've had. You can't even call it a decent pullback, because we've had that would be the move for it. That would be the pullback for that move down to the 50, and then we've come up and hit supply. So honestly, though, if you're looking at the overall picture with Ethereum, it's very hard to pick where the actual where the blow off tops is going to be, because it's right in the middle of this downtrend. So it's extremely difficult to pick, and you're looking at indicators that are giving you some mixed signals. The only thing that's been decent, honestly, looking at these three that we've got, has been the RSI, where we've had the 91, and that's called out pretty much top. So if we're drawing our fibs, honestly, and we're extending that down to the start of the run, the 50 fib and the 61 really lines up with that demand there. And honestly, after a parabolic, couple of weeks we've had on Ethereum, I think something like a pullback like that's not out of the question. It needs to have something like that. Like, Bitcoin's getting it now. We've had the run on Bitcoin for the last 2-3 months, and we're only seeing some downage now. And it's honestly, people don't like to hear it, but it needs to happen on Ethereum as well. Yeah, so I think if we do start to head back down and create lower highs and lower lows, I think that's going to be where we're end up.
Yeah, if we can get the next confirmation in the next day or so that we're headed down. For myself, while I definitely agree with what you're saying there, as I'd probably be looking a little bit closer again, like I said, at that sort of 25,000 sat mark, 25,
yeah, even the 38.
Is where I would be looking for a bounce, because we do look left. We've had some nice little pivots from there after pretty significant moves down.
Yeah.
Looking on the daily. So really, that's probably where I would be potentially sort of layering in some longs, looking for a potential bounce from there. But again, the next sort of daily candle is probably going to help to give me a little bit of confirmation. We can see steamrollers screaming at us right now. The volume has dried up a little bit. We saw this sort of peak on the volume right before we came down. It's I'm gonna play Mr. Patient right now and wait for direction.
It's honestly, the safest bet is going to be to pick the pullback. So if you're layering in, the 23 and the 38, even the 50 and the 61, if you think we're going to get back down that far, if you're looking for long opportunities on Ethereum, providing that it does give us that. It can also seem like we're creating that cup and handle sort of structure as well, where we're looking for that pullback to continue, you know, back up and confirm that pattern. So that's one to look out for, and I think that might be one to trade and one to catch the long one.
I concur. One thing I do want to have a look at the moment is an altcoin, and it keeps getting talked about. And actually, there actually is one that I want to have a very quick look at, which would be actually no, I'm not going to talk about that one. Algo, ALGO, BTC. I saw this getting that's one on Binance, and I saw it getting spoken about on Twitter. I'm like, what the hell is this shit coin? I haven't had a look at what's going on with it as of yet, but the structure of it is what got me. Not so much the coin. We can obviously see a pretty decent increase in volume, and we can see we're at a pretty important level here. Looking at the structure to the left, if we can break where we are here, there's not much holding this back.
No.
Again, it's a low cap coin, so you've always got to play on the side of caution with this. But as if we just go up to the charts that I've got up the top there,
yeah.
A couple of weeks ago when BAT was having a run, I was going through some of the charts and I went, ZRX is very similar to what we've got here. We'll just show the other one first, ads if we could.
Okay. Sorry. Yep.
That's right.
That one?
Yeah, there we go. So top there, we've got BAT, BTC, and ZRX BTC. ZRX actually had a pretty phenomenal breakout, and we did get to like 3,300 sats or something like that. It ended up being close to 30% profit that we took, because looking at the structure of BAT, I said ZRX is prime here. We break that neckline. We teetered around the breakout box for a little bit. And then we blasted up, and that was that W bottom that we've spoken about a number of times with our guys, and we actually wrote an article for our sort of our university behind the scenes talking about this exact same breakout. And if you go to that other chart that I had, ads,
the algo one,
looking at this from a structure perspective, this is now algo. We've got this W bottom within this sort of triangle formation. We're waiting for a break of this neckline, and I dare say we'll get it. And at times when we've had these W bottoms, we've not even had a retest to the downtrend line. We've just blasted straight through it.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm paying attention to algo, because of this structure, a very evident increase in volume. There's obviously a little bit of room on the CCI to move. We are starting to sort of top out a little bit, but with low market cap coins like this, and a number of people probably seeing the same sort of structure, it can have quick little runs and quite significant little runs. So while I'm not looking at a great deal of altcoins right now, I just thought I would share that setup. And when people are talking about it, obviously you buy the rumor and you sell the news, if any. So I think if this breaks, that 127 mark at the top there at the 5,000 sat mark could certainly be on the cards, at least 4,500 sats. This is not financial information. I got to say that. This is just something that I've spotted in the market, and recognizing this pattern, I've had some pretty good success with it. But of course, trade at your own risk, trade what you can afford to lose.
Good advice.
And there we go. Ads' supply there lines up very well with pretty much what my fibs are saying there, and the break of the neckline.
Absolutely. So if we identify the supply, obviously, and you've got your major pivot on your demand, it lines up too well, bro. It lines up too well. 1, 2, 3. The next target and the next structure that there is going to be the one above it. So it needs to make a little bit of a high here off this run up.
Totally. Yeah.
But it looks like it might. It's got the volume to do it. So yeah, could be a go.
Could be a go. So that's a little one for you there. A lot of the other alts right now, so many of them have had such great runs. This is healthy for alts after such phenomenal runs that so many of them had. So I think and I got asked this the other day by someone that said, what do I think about alts? And I said, listen, I think alts are in a fantastic position right now for the sort of the mid to long term for the rest of this year. And I certainly think that might not see a great deal of action towards the end of this month as BTC makes up its mind and potentially has this pullback that we're talking about, or this continued move down that we're looking for, but I think certainly next month and the sort of the next 1 to 2 months are going to be very fruitful for certain alts. So it's definitely worth playing. And as we said beforehand, we don't see these full blown alt seasons. We said this last Thursday. It's these mini alt seasons where we get these runs on these certain coins, while whether BTC sort of moving sideways or even a lot of alts moving and holding quite well independently outside of BTC, as we've seen on Link recently as well. So, you know, some of them are coming into their own. It's just about spotting the right ones and playing accordingly and not forgetting to move your stops up as I did.
Yes, that's one of the main things you have to look for, bro.
Bad
Come
text.
on, man.
Bad text. Lesson learned. You know, it happens. I'm not going to
Yes.
say to the best of us because I'm not the best of us, but it certainly happens to people who have done it a million times before. When it gets on autopilot, sometimes it's easy to overlook these things. So don't be like Tex. Don't make those silly mistakes.
If you sustain a loss or you make a mistake, go back to your trading plan
Oh.
and modify your trading plan so something like that does not happen a second time. You have to learn. Your losses are more of a lesson than anything else.
Totally. And as we said to our guys, losses are, you know, trading and losing is a tuition.
Yeah.
This is the university of crypto, and we pay to lose sometimes. But that's when you learn from it. So it was a phenomenal wake up call and quite refreshing. It really forced me to go back and look at my trade plans, my journals, and really take a bit of a micro look at what I did and slap myself accordingly.
Yeah, that's justified.
Thank you very much. No, thank you everybody for joining us. I know it was a little bit later than usual. I hope to be back on the regular schedule as of next week. If you do like this, please feel free to comment, like, and should subscribe or share with anyone that you think might need to hear this. And of course, come over into Discord and come and hang out with us, or you can go and see all the articles and content and information and tons of stuff that we have over at unitytradinggroup.com. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Catches.